have a key. And what I mean when I say that is not everyone deserves access. Just as you wouldn't just put the key to your home in anyone's hands, or it would not be wise to put the key to your dwelling place in just anyone's hands, the same goes for your life. Not everyone deserves access. Not everyone deserves to know where you live. Not everyone deserves to be invited to where you live. And even if they know where you live and they get invited, not everyone deserves to cross the threshold of where you live. Not everyone gets invited inside. Not everyone gets to know where you lay your head. Even if they come in, they might come in just to go to the restroom or just to sit in the living room or just to, but not everyone deserves to be like, oh, this is my bedroom, this is where I lay. Not everyone deserves to have a key. Not everyone deserves to have access to your life, to the most intimate parts of you. And when I say intimate, I mean those places that are tucked and that dwell deep within you that can only be accessed through a certain alignment. Access requires alignment. Just because you're friendly with someone does not mean that they are your friend. Just because they're friendly with you does not mean that they are your friend. Just because you've known them for a certain amount of time doesn't mean that they get a key. It's the quality over quantity, the quality of their character, the quality of your connection with them, the quality of who they are and how it aligns with the life that you desire. Because once you give a key to someone, they have access. They can come whenever, they can stay for however long. And not only can they come, but they can bring whatever that they want with them. And I believe that sometimes, and I'm speaking to myself as well, we grant access to people too easily. And only when you raise the standards on who deserves and receives access to you will your life begin to shift. Because sometimes you don't realize who you see and who you meet is not exactly the reality. We might be meeting their representative. We might be meeting who they pretend to be or portray to be. But if you see through the spiritual lens, you will realize the deeper qualities or aspects of them. So we have to test the spirit by the spirit. We have to discern and be able to acknowledge and recognize, what am I being presented with? The object versus the subject, not the who, the what. What do they do? Who do they show themselves to be? Not just when they're in front of me. What does their life reflect? Does their life reflect wise choices? Does their life reflect responsibility? Does their life reflect accountability? Does their life reflect that they lean into challenges or run away from challenges? Do they have an easy life or do they have an intentional life? All these things are really intentional and, I would say, absolute when it comes to deciding who gets access to your life. Because if you give just anyone a key and you give anyone access to you, you're giving them permission to show up and bring whatever energy, habits, mindset that they have into your space. I'm someone, when you come into my home space, we take shoes off at the door. If you give somebody keys and they don't respect that, they don't honor that, that's not their intention, then they'll come in with their shoes on and they'll track the outside dirt, mud, low vibrations all through your stuff. So when I'm saying the key, y'all, and I'm saying your home, I'm really referring to something deeper, your access to yourself, to your life, to your energy. Your energy is your currency. I cannot stress that enough. It doesn't matter how much money is in your bank account. Your true currency is reflective of your energy. And we become a sum total of those we hang around, of those we surround ourselves with. Mel, get down, baby. And so if you're just letting the riffraff in, eventually, my friend, you're going to start to that's riffraff's going to rub off on you. If you have one piece of rotten fruit, you have one rotten apple, and you have all these healthy apples, if you put that rotten apple in the midst of those healthy apples, baby, don't you know those healthy apples are going to start to turn just because they're in proximity? You become a sum total of the people that you surround yourself with. So I'm encouraging you to get really intentional and selective about who you surround yourself with and who you allow to have access to you. Not everybody deserves access. Not everyone deserves to have a key. That's it. That's all I got for you. I might do some more videos on this later, because if you don't set those boundaries, who will? Givers have to learn to set boundaries because takers don't have any. And unfortunately, it's oftentimes that givers get paired with takers. And it's because givers have not yet to learn boundaries. They've not yet to learn to set boundaries. Once you learn to set those boundaries with grace, it's a done deal, because you're not overextending. You don't have to pretend to be a certain type of way to get someone to like you or accept you. I like myself. I accept myself. And for me, the space that I've created in my life, the peace that I've cultivated, this has taken years of work, of intention, of dedication. Too much to the point where I can just give anybody the access, the keys to what I've cultivated, what I've built. Me and God, of course, but yeah. So you got to see people through different seasons. See them through all 4 seasons of life. And I mean summer, spring, winter, fall, but I also mean, how are they when they don't get what they want? Who are they when things aren't going their way? Who are they when they have everything that they want? Who are they when they have money in their account, when they don't have money in their account? Who are they when you say no to them versus when you say yes? Start to study people. Get to know them. And you also get to know yourself. You don't always have to keep the peace. It's better to keep the peace inside of yourself, because a lot of us, especially those who care a lot, we try to avoid stirring the waters outside of us, and that starts a war within us. When you start to prioritize your peace above all else, all that other stuff's going to become secondary, and you realize, oh no, I'm going to speak up for myself because this protects my peace, or I'm going to just choose silence because this protects my peace. I'm just going to withdraw because this protects my peace. Not everyone deserves access to your innermost thoughts, to your words, to your phone, to your life, to your time, to your energy. So that's all I have for you. Not everyone deserves access. Not everyone deserves a key. Have a beautiful day. Do with this as you may, but I pray that you apply it and align with it, because the life that you desire exists, but it requires you to actively participate in it. And oftentimes, that means saying no. Because if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. If you don't commit to something, you'll be distracted by everything. Stand on business. Only you know the life that you desire. So that means you have to say no to everything that is not in alignment with that. And immediately, nip it in the bud. Nope, don't have time for that. Nope, that's not worth my time, my energy. No, thank you. It could be a kind, graceful no, but sometimes it has to be the no to let people know they got you. So anywho, it's a great day. It's a beautiful day to have a beautiful day, and a beautiful day begins with a beautiful mindset. Go into this day, make the most out of it. Remember, today is a day that you've never seen before and that you will never see again. I love you, but God loves you best. Peace. Toodaloo, YouTube. I pray this message reaches who it needs to reach and that it resonates with you, because honestly, you're the co-creator of your life. And whatever it is that you choose is what's going to become your reality. Your mentality becomes your reality. So if there's something that you desire for yourself that requires your active participation, if there's a change that you wish to see, then that's the change that you must be. Those dreams won't work unless you do. I love you. Yes, someone said, Maurice said, you have to watch for the the importation of spirits, and be careful who you spend time with and who you relate to. Yes, exactly. People's spirits can be imparted to you. Yes, they can, especially in proximity. For the battle that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, right? It's spiritual, against principalities. It's the things we live in this world, y'all, but we're not of it. Everything that we see through the physical is limited, but who we truly are is spiritual. And when you realize that everything is spiritual, then you start looking less through your physical and look more through your spiritual eye. Not everything is as it presents itself to be. So you test the spirit by the spirit. And you can't test it unless the spirit, unless your discernment, unless your connection to God, to source, is strong, is active. If not, you're just going to go off of people's words, or you're just going to go off of what you see. But you can tell a tree by the fruit that it bears. So we must start to study the fruit. If someone is saying, okay, they're godly and they're in church every week, but then you look at their life and what fruit do you see? Do you see fruit that is life-bearing, that is abundant? Or do you see fruit that is lacking, that's withered, that's got holes in it, it don't really look like what they're saying? Wise up now. My people perish from lack of knowledge. It is up to us to enhance our knowledge, right? And we learn by hearing. We learn through hearing. So it's important for us to get into the word and start to learn it for ourselves, and not just be in the word, but allow the word to live within us. So that way, when you're faced with circumstances, challenges, and situations, you're not just leaning on your own understanding. You're not just leaning on your own mindset. You're not just leaning on your own strength or your own anything. You realize that what you have is a reflection of what God has given you. But if you're not operating through the gifts that God has given you, then you're going to be operating through the gifts of the world. The gifts of the world come like, okay, what am I hearing, seeing, feeling, touching, tasting? Which those things come from the body, the five senses. But this body is limited to the physical. Whereas our spirit, which is embodied within, is not limited to the physical. It is tapped into the spiritual realm. So it is up to us to learn how to integrate our five senses inward and not so much outward all the time. Because if you do, you're going to always. If you're led by your emotions, if you're led by what you feel, if you're led by what you think, you're almost always going to get to the end like, man, I should have followed my first mind. Which really, when we say our first mind, that's really our intuition, which is the language of the spirit. So we have to open our spiritual eyes, our spiritual ears, and guard your gates. Guard what you watch, what you listen to, what you say, what you eat. Guard those gates and trust that you are divinely guided and protected. But become more intentional about what you choose to entertain. Just because somebody wants your time, just because somebody wants to know you and hang out with you and wants to love you and wants to be in a relationship, okay, that's nice. That's what they want. Is that what's best for you? And honestly, the same way God knows what you want, the enemy knows what you want too. And the enemy will always send counterfeits. It'll look like what you want or what you thought you wanted, because maybe you're so focused on what you want that you forgot to focus on what you need. God is always going to focus on our needs. All of our needs are always being met, regardless. Waking up this morning, right now, I have everything that I need: breath, life, health, strength, body, sound mind. So because I have those gifts, I'm able to make do for the day. Everything else is a want. But sometimes we're so focused on and driven by what we want, or what we think that we want, that we're oftentimes led astray. And the enemy will attempt to give you what you want, but you don't realize it's lacking what you need. You want attention. What you need is accountability. Sometimes we don't realize that God focuses on what you need, and the enemy will focus on what you want. And if you're not careful, you'll start to lean more into what you want and start to negate what it is that you need. What you need, you already have. And what you want, not to say it's not worthy, but sometimes what you want isn't what's best. It might just be what's easiest or what's most familiar. What you focus on, you fuel. And I will just say that the same way God knows what you want, the enemy knows what you want as well. And the enemy is known to send counterfeits. Because there's nothing that you can outgive God. God is the giver and the sustainer of all things. You can't bargain with God. Well, if I do this, then maybe you'll do this. If it's your will, then I will. And most of us aren't willing to surrender our own will because we're so focused on our wants. But I feel like wanting something is the lowest form of desire, so to speak. Because if you really wanted something, you would be willing to do what it takes to get that, to align with that. Not just to get it, but to become worthy of receiving it. And a lot of times we want something that we're not even worthy of receiving. You want more money, but you're not handling the money that you have already well. You want a better relationship, but you're not better relating to yourself. You want a better job, but you're not showing up fully at the job that you have. You want a better vehicle and a better car, but how are you handling the one that you already have or the last one that you had? So a lot of times we just want. And I feel like a lot of times the wanting comes from the mind. But what is it that you need? You want attention. You need accountability. You want a challenge-free life. You need the circumstances that are going to prepare you for the next level. You want other people to accept you. You need self-acceptance. You want validation that's external. You need to align with who God has called you to be. Authenticity. Just some thoughts, because I believe so many of us are driven by what we want that we are missing out on what we actually need. And if you're constantly driven by your wants, you're going to miss the mark every time. Did you know that the word sin means to miss the mark? It comes from a Greek word called harmatia, and it means to miss the mark. And to me, sin is anything that draws you away from God. And so a lot of the times what we want is drawing us away from God because we're so focused on what we want that we're not even realizing what is God's will. So, anywho, don't be so led by your wants today that you forget about God's will. I'll leave y'all with that. Have a beautiful day. Till next time. Peace.